Oh man. Well, first, Matt, let me say thank you. I am so grateful to have this time with you. I'm so excited for what I already know is going to be an incredible cerebral adventure with you. So thank you for being here with me and all of our listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I know we can go on a tear. So whatever direction you want to go in, we'll do it.
Oh, we're going to dance all over. I mean, first, I want to shout out and give you a little fun kind of behind the scenes story of how I even first discovered you. So my best friend, Carrie Walsh Jennings, I don't believe in coincidences. This is what's really interesting. She sends me this Clubhouse link and, with some nice notes about you and what she feels about like the messages you share. And, for me to check it out basically. And it was super early in the morning. And the thing for me is that my morning me time, I don't spend time in that space downloading from the external. I download from the internal, right? So I'm very, very like, I would never normally go on to a Clubhouse talk at that hour, but number one, anybody that my best girl sends to me and respects, you kind of get the backdoor entrance to my attention. That's number one. Number two, I don't know. There was something, I went on your page and I was like, oh, let me just check them out. And I'm listening to you, and this is going to bridge us into the starting point that I would like to start with you. But, I'm hearing your message, which was so powerful and beautiful, just everything that was coming out of you. But I can feel really deeply, like I'm just a highly sensitive individual. And I'm feeling where your messaging is coming from. And I was like, oh, this fucking guy is real. Like he's like, it's coming from like his sacral chakra. Like he's like speaking from truth and from passion, from absolute authenticity. And I swear I don't hand out that statement at all, so that was really special. So basically like to just connect with you. And then we started connecting on DMs, and then here we are. So it's not an accident. I really don't believe it's an accident that we have crossed paths, because, the more I've had so much fun just diving into your work. It's endless. Like there's so much value in everything that you are doing and sharing. So I'm just very grateful. And I think, something that I kind of touched on right now that I would love to just have you riff on. There's going to be a lot of that. I'm just going to like throw you fucking basketballs. Okay. I would just love for you to riff on what authenticity, like, what does that even mean to you? Why is that important? Why is it important for an individual to operate their lives from their most authentic self?
It's honest, authenticity, you see now kind of like people say like, oh, you need to be your most authentic self, and they'll start talking about it from like a marketing perspective. And I'm like, throughout centuries, we've had to be our most authentic self. And I think that that's actually a tougher thing for a lot of people than it should be, than it has to be, right? It's just our truth. It's just being able to say, hey, like, here's how I feel. And I'm not even putting it on you. I'm just saying that in this moment, here's how I feel, and here's who I am, and here's what I'm understanding of myself. Yeah. And I have a responsibility in owning all of that without putting that onto anybody else, while at the same time, kind of just loving on people a little bit, right? But I mean, and not to sound like all like woo, it's just that like, I see so many people out there sharing from a place, and I did it too, I think at one point, validation, we must prove our worth. I have to prove myself in this world. I have to prove myself with this value, worthiness, and, if I get these accolades, then I could put them, in my, way back in the day, maybe a resume or like a bio. I don't know. I've always been an entrepreneur, but like a bio or like a, to get the credit that somebody else then can say, oh, you've done this.
Right.
Now,
now you're somebody.
Now you're somebody. Now we can connect. And I think that's bullshit. I personally think that like, because I think that if you remove titles and you remove statuses and you remove labels and you just have like a conversation that's really, really real, like you actually create space for, connection to happen, for like somebody to feel like, you know what, I want to say what I really want to say and I don't want to hold back. The relief that comes from being in your own like self is one of the most freeing things you can do, right? And it's unfortunate too, a little bit with social media and the internet. I mean, I've been in the internet game for 20 plus years. So it's like, I've watched what happened because of the marketing side. I've watched what happened from more recent events and more recent years, or but even like from like the influencer side and from like the comparison game and from the mental wellness game, like everybody's looking at social media and seeing the mood board version of what the people are maybe trying to embody. And there's nothing wrong with trying to embody these beautiful things, but not to like get that attention, not to get that, in my opinion, not to get that, okay, now you're cool. Now I can approve of you. Blue check mark, right? So it's like, and God bless for those, for the blue check marks as well too. I mean, I'm not saying anything against it, just that like, you see how hard people work for it, and then one other thing about that, I was recently giving a talk to some female entrepreneurs in the health and wellness space, and they were there was a talk about like, how do you get verified? And I had to really ask them, I said, why do you want to be verified?
Yeah.
By who?
Great question. Yeah. Seriously.
So if I have a blue check mark, now my account will grow so I can continue to feed the system to continue to verify me.
Oh, my heart right now.
Right? So, or can I create an ecosphere of, here's why I'm doing it, here's who I'm doing it for, let's come along together. Check mark, no check mark. Let's just have a really, really real talk. And the fact of the matter is, I think most people really want to have the talk, because I've even been around ones that aren't used to having it at all. And they put on the front. And the moment I've been around them, they've been like, thank you. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? They're like, I don't get to talk this way that much. And that's how I also started to realize like, wow, so your circle's pretty rough right now, how you can't have these talks. They're like, no. So you start to, I think the beautiful side of having influence online and then the podcast, all the podcast guests have been great, but on occasion when you get somebody that you get in contact with and you learn a little bit more behind the scenes than what the internet portrays, you realize like, okay, wow, everybody's going through something. Everybody just needs a safe space. Everybody wants to be seen, felt, and heard. We're all kind of want the same outcomes in life for the most part. It just depends on what level we're willing to work for it.
Yeah.
And, we want to be free, right? We want to be ourselves.
So powerful. It's like, God, everything you say just resonates with me on a very, very deep level. And, a lot of the women that I coach and I mentor come to me to develop and fortify their self-confidence. And, in my opinion, and it really is like kind of expanding what you just shared, one cannot truly, emphasis on truly, become self-confident if one is not willing to be loyal to their most authentic self. How is it even logical? Like, how is it possible to develop confidence if you are not operating from your truth?
Yeah. Real confidence.
Real. And I put emphasis on that because it's like what you said. I mean, you've been in the digital fucking space for so long, and it's got to be so incredible. Like if I can be in your mind one day to just see the time lapse of all of what you've witnessed and, just marketing and just everything. I mean, I was so late to the game in Instagram, FYI, but like, and that's just Instagram, but just, to witness all of the efforting. And it's like, you're like you said, it's like, it's, maybe the intention is good, but it's like, you're missing the fucking mark. If you would just show up and do it's like, I always say, like, there's a lot of things that I envision to impact this world with and from, right? One of which is to give permission, like just by me being my most authentic self. Guess what? You fucking do you. Nobody actually, and this will bridge us into something else. I have to be careful. Rabbit holes.
I love it.
I want to like, but just basically, I'm saying like, and this, in so much of your beautiful writing, there's always this tone of be in your truth, express your truth, because the ripple effect that comes from that is a life of fulfillment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It again, it's freedom, it's independence, it's sovereignty, it's knowing, it has self-reliance and control in my world, not the external world. You were very right about the confidence. When everybody's very anxious, we're probably thinking more of the external and everything that comes with it and everything we don't know. But if we take time, as you said back at the beginning about like in the morning, doing the internal and whatever I don't know, I will take time to learn in each of the areas, and my relationship to those areas, my money, my health, my relationships, my work, my art, how I show up in the world, all of these things, right? And so that's where the confidence comes from, because you start to see how your world is less affected by the decisions of others, which is a very big deal. It's a very, very big deal. And I just had this conversation the other day. But more importantly, like you feel more a sense of in your truth, and doing the work just as straight up is just humbling. It's humility driven and it's humbling, and I like to do all the areas because a couple of things that I noticed was one, if we pay attention to just one, if we pay attention to just the money, we're going to get all the way and fill the pockets and then use all that to buy back the health, the relationships, the, like the spiritual, everything. We can go all the way with, the health, but if we're a healthy body, but, we're not maybe doing the spiritual or being a little bit more financially responsible, and, all of these different things. So I think it's very humbling, and with humility and humbleness, I think comes your truth, comes your authenticity again. Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, my whole brand Black Belt Beauty is built on optimal performance. It's holistic high performance. And it's exactly why what you just said, because, I'm not, first of all, interested in killing it in one avenue of my life, first of all. And second of all, it's not even possible. You might get to a very high level if you are focused on just one area, but the way that nature works, FYI, everyone, my audience has heard me say this several times. We are fucking nature. There's no separation between us. When you are only looking from a narrow lens at one area, other important areas of your life that need to be nourished and watered suffer. And then you have to pay the consequence of that suffering, right? And that's essentially what you're saying. It's like, don't confine yourself to trying to just accelerate in one area. Invest in all of these important other areas and actually, let me just, because we're right there, there's a post that you put up that I loved. And you said, you need 5 types of wealth: time wealth, financial wealth, physical wealth, emotional wealth, spiritual wealth. Go.
Yep. Yes. Yes to all. I was writing it from both a business perspective and a spiritual perspective, which I love bridging the two. I constantly think about if we're here as like a soul traveling, right? That's how I look at it. And that personal freedom and sovereignty comes from doing the work. If I have financial wealth, I have the power to redistribute the way I need to redistribute, and grow community, not enable community, grow community and infrastructure, you know, and maybe redefine the system, recreate a system. If I have spiritual wealth, right, one of the most important, if not the most important, next to your health, I'm not easily shaken by a physical world. I'm more rooted in God. I'm rooted in my intuition, in source. Your health, right? Is that there's 5 total. There's
physical, emotional, spiritual,
physical,
financial,
emotional,
and time.
yes.
Time
and
as well, which is
time. So I'll get to time last.
okay.
Physical, wanted to embody health in totality. If we do not take care of our temple, right, which I had learned at one point that, you know, we were designed to live for like thousands of years as a body. You know, I know it's funny when people say like, oh, that's impossible. I'm like, well, when you think about it, I mean, you're a soul already inhabiting a machine like this. That's your body. Your choices and stress and lifestyle will kind of determine its length, right? Of, you know, we won't go down that rabbit hole too much, but
no,
but the physical, right? But the physical is your way. I mean, it's the way. Without that, right? Without your health, nothing else matters. You lose that, and you're in deep shit.
Yeah,
like that, like you can't perform anything else.
Exactly.
Right. Which is why I think a lot of the world is rethinking right now in a multitude of different ways. Your emotional health is vital. It's so vital to understand your emotions because they're signals, they're an understanding of who you are, they're your experiences, they're this lifetime and maybe past lifetimes. You know, our job is to get to know who we really are. So if I'm having something emotional come up, okay, great. Like, why do I feel that way? What even is that?
Yeah.
And what is that? What am I in relation to that? And how am I maybe, you know, is that being a part of an experience that I might be having with another in any given, you know, situation as well too?
Yeah.
Right. And so having a true understanding of our emotions is so critical because we're seeing what's happening at the macro of a lot of untamed, uncertain, frustrated, angry emotions all just colliding, whether you're on a more appropriate angle. I don't like using the word size or not. And so, you know, when we have a better relationship with our emotions, we're more apt to be not only like rooted and grounded in like how we approach things, but we're also able to think clear. Like, what do you know? Like, I would love the people at the top all fighting each other.
Yeah.
Like in the macro, I mean, like what we're seeing, you know, all over, to just stop for a second, but like, what do you know? Like, what, like, just out of curiosity, I mean, I'll show you what I know and where I heard it from and this, that, and that.
Yeah.
And then like you share with me and then like, let's just like together think, like, let's have like a fun research party together or something like that. And like, you know, trade information and whatnot. But it's so clear that what is dividing and is so divisive is triggering emotions. It always has been, you know, that's why like these leaders back in the day, like you probably seen me like mention Marcus Aurelius a million times, mostly because I'm really on his meditations right now. It's just like, it's that embodying of like that emotional body. Right. Yeah. And then when it comes to time, it's the most valuable asset. It is not infinite. Maybe our actions can be, so that way they exist long after we're gone. But it's if we don't use it accordingly, we can be a slave to it.
Yeah.
It's very easy to get very busy and distracted and lost and stressed and lonely.
Yeah.
And we have to have a better relationship with time.
Yeah.
We have to find out how we're using it
Mm-hmm.
and how it works for us.
Yeah.
Not the other way around. So that's my post in a verbal format.
Well, and I love it because everyone's going to have wealth is obviously subjective, right?
Right.
I just loved the framework there. It resonates with me, and I'm just going to touch on a few things. We'll start with the timepiece. I've kind of framed this. It's what I believe is the most valuable trio of assets that we humans have. I call it the trifecta of power, which is your focus, your time, and your energy.
Yes.
Right? It's like that because I know that wherever we're putting that trifecta of power, that's where we're going. That's what's expanding. So it's like this is like where agency comes in. Like we have the ability to choose where we are directing that focus, that time, that energy. And then this kind of bridges into, when you're talking about emotional health, my coaching is centered in self-mastery. In self-mastery lives self-regulation.
Yes.
Emotional discipline. Yeah. Emotional fucking discipline. Emotional regulation. And how does one gain this? Well, it's what another subject I love to talk about deeply, which is self-awareness. You gotta go. Yeah, no, let me throw you that fucking fastball. Riff, Matt.
Do you want to finish? I love where you were going.
Listen, like we're going to have many talks. I already know that. No, it's like when I DM'd you, it's like straight up behind the scenes people. And I was like, Matt, I'm giving you the fucking mic. I have a lot of things to say, but whatever. I'm always talking. I need people to hear you.
You did say that. I was, that actually hit me pretty hard too, by the way. I was like, ooh, I'm like, thank you. Like real. You said it with intention, like, go. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what you reminded me of when you did that? Back in the beginning of when I was posting first on my first account, which was called HDF Magazine, and it's still up there. Yeah. I wanted to start having all these conversations, and this is about 8 years ago. And I remember two of my close best friends both said something very similar, and I was having a moment, like my whole life transformed, everything happened, and I was like, I think I want to say something. And they're like, get them. Like they were just like, there was this, it was weird because it was a relief from them that I didn't even realize. I was like, huh. They're like, please just get them. Like, just go in and get them. Like, and here we are 8 years later.
Yes, so I love it.
So I really appreciated that. And self-awareness, what a journey that is, because and I was just kind of putting this on my stories today. It's like, on one hand, you're having a lot of self-compassion, and on the other hand, you're having accountability. And so there's this I'm going to put myself under the microscope to better understand who I am and what my behavior is. And how I'm making choices. I'm going to understand, am I making choices, more appropriately for, from me trying to control a situation, or from me trying to, me being in my highest and best, self. Right. And then on the other side is the accountability. And it's a constant journey, because we can so easily feel guilty. And if you're driven like I am, although I've finally kind of really started to change what driven means for me.
Okay.
But if you're driven, you can be very hard on yourself. I have been very hard on myself for many years. That doesn't really work for me anymore. And so I'm having a new relationship with that.
Can I ask you, I'm sorry I interrupted, but that was too big. Why does it not work for you anymore?
because I'm not celebrating my life enough, my good choices, the process, the imperfections. I'm not, if I'm constantly staying stuck not stuck because I can move out of it, but if I'm in a frequency that it's like, oh, I could have done that better. Oh man, I can't believe I did that. All right, well, fuck. All right. I'll look for that opportunity. The next time I'll rectify. Like, you can kind of stay in it a little bit extra or feel like you have to correct something right away, or it can create an extra stress you didn't know about. And because I love myself, because I'm having a better relationship with myself now, where I'm like, I really love you, dude. Like, like good for you. And just starting to have a relationship with myself over the last couple of years that it's so easy to have with other people, especially with our best friends in our circle and, loved one. Yeah. But can you have that with yourself? And so, and I still have my bouts of, being too hard on myself, but, it doesn't work anymore because, you get tired. And I guess, I know, especially in high performance, I totally get it. Like, I'm a high performer. I love high performance. But I want to stay in flow.
Yes.
I don't want to stay perfect example. I love sports analogies. I'm a sports fanatic, especially when it comes to basketball.
I'm an athlete.
Yeah, right. So, Kobe, when he took a shot, it was either Kobe or Mike. I'm pretty sure it was Kobe. When he took a shot, that's it. The shot is up. It's either in or it's not. I mean, he pretty much willed every shot in. But if it wasn't in, there was nothing else. It was stuck in a moment. He's on to the next. He's on to the next. He's on to the next. There is no energy behind the miss. That is what was the biggest thing for me, is there shouldn't be any extra energy behind the miss. It just should be acknowledged. And that's about it. Like, oh, okay, next. And reset, moment to moment, flow.
Yeah. Right? You're not fucking dwelling. You're not a victim of the situation. Right.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So powerful.
And how I was able to determine that was because I can sometimes feel the ego come up, because I'll get defensive, even to loved ones. That's hard. It's hard when I have been defensive at times to loved ones because they're just trying to love you. And you're just like, and yeah, so good. It can hit you and you're just like, I'm so sorry. And good loved ones are like, yeah, I know.
For sure.
So
it's so, I love that you brought compassion into this, because I always say that self-compassion is a high performance tool. And my reasoning behind that is because, I very similar to you, listen, I'm 43. I've been living for a minute now. I'm still a baby, but I'm living for a minute to where I have, I can look back at the different decades and I've been writing my whole life. So actually majority of it is documented as well, but I can really see my evolution and feel it. And I mean, my 20s for sure, I was fighting against myself in many situations, driven, doing all the things, but fighting against myself. And then in my 30s, I started shifting into this place where now I'm fucking fighting for myself.
Yes.
And that's when the entire game changes. And part of what's in my arsenal, my ability to fight for myself. And that could be, that's expressed in many different ways, but the compassion piece is what allows me to have the space that I need, the patience that I need to be able to be in that flow state, exactly like you so eloquently just put, just to keep it fucking moving. Yes. Yeah. Didn't, hit the mark, could have done it better. I'm a high performer too. I'm taking notes. What I won't do is I don't need to be an asshole to myself.
There you go.
To grow.
There it is.
Right. And so my heart smiled when you said, I love myself because that I call self-love her. I call her the fucking queen of battle. And she's the queen of battle, in my opinion, for this reason. She is going to put you in the arena. When I'm talking about fighting for yourself, whether that's getting up when you don't want to do the thing, that go to the gym, do whatever, grind out this project that you need to get out by the deadline, whatever it is, there's so many different ways, right? Where you're going to fight for yourself. Self-love is saying, I'm fucking worth the battle and the victory. So we're going right now. Yeah. And this is why she's so badass, in my opinion, because when inevitably it will happen. I say it all the time in my own life. Like, there are times where I'm an entrepreneur. I get put on my fucking knees, and it's like,
I do know.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm a path creator. This is uncharted territory that I'm creating, from passion, purpose, and vision. So I'm taking punches, but self-love is what gets me back up. So she's putting you in the arena, but she's also helping you when you take those hits to keep fucking going forward and fighting back, So when you just shared all that and you say, I love myself, I just really hope that everybody who's listening or watching this podcast really felt that from a place similar to where I felt it, because that's it, Matt. Like, when you start to get into this state where you really have reverence for yourself, and this bridges me into an area that I really want to pick your fucking brain on, core values. You just move through life differently. So yeah, I mean, I just dropped that on you, and core values is because there was a piece of writing when I first, like in that first Clubhouse, like that same day, where I saw you wrote something about integrity, and that is a core value of mine. And it's a masterpiece. I shared it. That was like how this all started, because I was like, he fucking nailed it. You nail it because you get it. It's not scripted. So please, there you go. Core values.
Well, I'll to precede that, because I love what you said about your 20s and your 30s. So I'm 42. So I'm right there with you. Yeah. And I felt both of those in the 20s and the 30s, and then as I was approaching 40, back in 2019, I was like, I felt the energy of the 40s, which I love. I love my 40s. And I do feel like a baby, just like you, where, I know better. And I was learning about Kabbalah. And originally, Kabbalah back in the day with its masters was that you can't technically start learning until 40. Obviously, that's all changed with modern society. But and the reason being was that every day you live up until you're 40 is experience. Mm-hmm. After 40, you have to turn experience into wisdom, or your decision making and your approach. You have to redefine your approach completely. You know what you know, how you know. So you have to like really.
So good.
It may be one thing to make mistakes, and we'll always make mistakes, but like, we know, right? And so we have to lead differently by that point, I think. So I'm really enjoying that. The values, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Integrity is a very, very big deal to me, because it is the culmination of a lot of other values. It's respect. Mm-hmm. It's consistency. Mm-hmm. It's being your word. It's showing up. It's love. It's honor. It's humility. All of these things are so important to like guide us. Mm-hmm. And it could be very easy to take anything that is thrown our way that is in compromise to that. And I hate to break it to everybody. Every day we are offered things that are in compromise to that. If you go against your truth or your intuition, you can be manipulated. And I'm not, again, just talking about what's going on currently. I'm talking about throughout life. It's why maybe people took a job they didn't want to, or went to school when they didn't want to, or anything. I think it's important for a person to learn how to not compromise their truth, like what feels right. And you get a lot of people say, oh, I don't know, like, you know, I don't know really what feels right. And I don't this. I'm like, then fucking learn it. Because like, and I was writing this yesterday, it's like, you got this world operating in this physical, and it's so mental and low dense earth energy. And I'm like, you don't even realize that you're playing a whole other game within a game, which has everything to do about your soul and its correction. And what it does is it travels. Meanwhile, everybody's so caught up in like short-term everything, you know, because of the attachment and the need for all of this stuff. But internally, they know what they really want and don't want. They know what feels right and doesn't feel right. And it may be a season where something feels right, that may be more from the emotional and less from the spiritual. And that's fine, because that also is your path. Again, grace and self-awareness and growth. You'll get there where, oh, weird, now I have these things and that didn't really actually fulfill that part. You're like, so, you know, what does that maybe tell you, right? And so integrity, it's our whole manifesto or mantra, or like our whole being. It's everything. It's so unbelievably important. It's our guiding force. Yeah. And I think the hardest part is, you know, we're not perfect. None of us are perfect, but it's really difficult watching people compromise their integrity. And then what you feel like in relationship to them, you're like, you know, okay. And that's also what the entire world has been experiencing for the last 18, 19 months. That's what's happening, is it's like everybody's kind of seeing where everybody's at and how they're either honoring and respecting or dishonoring and disrespecting, and how they're coming to make decisions. Like everything is really, our character is on full transparency. And to me, while everybody's paying attention to like the arguing here, I'm like, I would probably pay attention to the behavior here in general. Just what does that tell you in how you are approaching you, me, and the rest of the world? And get your shit correct. You know what I mean? like because, you know, with love. You know, but it's like, because I want you to win. I want you to be happy and healthy and peaceful, because I want that for me, and I'm working for that for me. You know, and so integrity and the consistency. Look, if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. One of the realest things I learned about 7 or 8 years ago is when our words and our actions are not aligned, it makes it very difficult for people to trust us, especially though some of the most important people in our life. Right? So if you say you're going to do something, even if afterwards you realize I didn't want to commit to that, or, I should have done that, you do it. You do it. Like I can't stress like how important it is, only because I didn't. And then once I started doing it, wow, the respect completely shifted. But also now I'm kind of like, okay, if they're not doing it, that's fine, because I'm not their, you know, I'm not their guardian. I'm not their, you know, but at least I understand what their relationship is with themselves in some capacity. And again, by the way, I have to keep stressing to the audience too, like, we are never perfect. I have absolutely, like, I've been called out. I love being called out by good people around me. Like, hey, you said you're going to get that thing. And, you know, I just want to check on you. I'm like, thank you so much. You're absolutely right. Here, you know, no excuses. You know, this came up, but I got you. Let me go ahead, you know, and get that to you right now, or whatever. And it's funny because sometimes they even feel bad. They're like, oh, no, like, I just want to make sure everything's okay. I'm like, no, I did say that. And something did come up, but I appreciate it. Right. So just the humility, like, be open and be checked, you know? Yeah.
It's not like there's no room for improvement in anything that you're saying, like on a personal level. I feel the same way. And I'm just, again, like, man, you're saying things, and people who have been tuned into me for a while and listening to this podcast are like, oh my God. I say, when I say I'm going to do something, I fucking do it. And here's what, one other thing that I think is just so important to add to everything that you just so epically said is like, when the consistency piece, man, I call it the magic pill. It's so fucking important and essential. Like what you said, it allows others to be able to trust you, right? So huge, so true. And I'm going to add to that and say, and even before that, what it allows you to do is trust your fucking self. And self-trust is a huge part of the conversation with me. Mm-hmm. I know I trust myself because I have proof.
Yeah.
When I said I was going to do it, I fucking did it. Okay. Maybe I didn't do it exactly on the schedule that I,
Right.
Like, but it gets done.
Always.
And it's not about perfect. And it's not about, it's this expression of saying like, my word holds so much weight, not just to you. Like, it's not just about you. So you trust me and you believe in me. No, because I'm over here in partnership with my fucking self. Also, and I would love you to just riff on this concept. But I always talk about this, like, especially to the women that I coach and I mentor, but like witness self. I'm witnessing myself every single day. And that is where a lot of my empowerment, my confidence, and all the love comes from me, like that integrity, because I see how I show up, which again, like goes back to like, I'm not saying there aren't messy moments. I'm not saying I'm hitting on the mark. Like there's no perfection here. Like, it's just not anything but it's this constant state of genuine intention and effort that is consistent.
Yeah.
And to witness that is very, very powerful. So please, what are your thoughts on witnessing self or anything I just shared?
Well, all of it. If I follow through, I probably know my outcomes. Right?
Yeah. Right.
I probably know the outcome. When a lot of people are like, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Why? What didn't you pay attention to with witnessing yourself or with observing others? Right.
Yeah.
So the consistency builds reliance as well. Self-reliance is huge. Mm-hmm. First, because to your point, I now have a base to draw from. I know it's going to get done. I know it's going to be at that moment the best it can be of myself. Mm-hmm. And I know the outcome.
Yeah.
More or less. I can predict the outcome.
Yeah.
And it allows others to rely on you. Yeah. And I tell this to the world that if you have people that you can rely on, show up in a way that they can rely on you, because it's not just about relying on them. Like, I have a very tight circle that I know I can easily rely on them just the same. Right. Yeah. Because otherwise, I'll be depleted. So, in my own, pursuit there. And from the witnessing self, I'm just naturally curious about how I'm showing up in any given moment. Like, just curious, why did I make that decision? What was the initial reaction to why I made the decision, and knowing, and then basically practice. Because if I start to feel how much more I'm constantly using my intuition and my inner voice and God, like where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to say no to this and I'm going to that and see what happens, versus, I'm really unsure, but okay, let's go ahead and do that. Well, that's a little wishy-washy.
Yeah,
that's not exactly how you lead,
No.
And I first started really learning a lot more about witnessing self from David Deda's The Way of the Superior Man, which I read 8 years ago after I went through divorce. And it was a very amicable divorce. And it was interesting because a lot of And a lot of people thought I was being very hard on myself. They're like, well, I mean, you're a good man, you're a good partner. I think you're being too hard on yourself. I'm like, you don't understand. Two of us ended up in an outcome we couldn't see. I have to know my role and how I ended up there. And I have to know how to lead myself moving forward. So it has nothing to do. I'm no longer responsible for that individual, but I'm definitely responsible for myself. So I'm not being hard on myself. I'm being in observance of myself. And so that's when, and I read David Deda's The Way of the Superior Man, and it was very interesting about doing all of these things. If we understand how we're making decisions and we become clear, and if we become clear, we become directional. If we become directional, right, we become consistent. And if we become consistent, we become reliant, right? And if we become reliant, we become trusted. And he was talking about the relationship in the book with women to a man, and that security is not material. Security is the way that partner feels that they can trust in how you are leading your life. Yes. So they will not try to micromanage it. They may test it because they're supposed to, because consciously they want to be number one, subconsciously they want to be your number two behind your purpose. But you create space where you are always making good decisions, even if it's to your own loved one that's like, I cannot do this at the moment. Here's why, you will be respected. And so we have to understand, am I always in witness of making the kind of decisions I feel confident about?
Yeah.
And it's okay if I don't in that moment that happened. Okay. Let me just learn from it. So next time I'm faced with it, I'll know exactly how to answer, versus just being on autopilot, which is what happens to a lot of people. That's why witnessing is so important, because you can kind of just see, like, I've done this before. Why have I done this before? Right. Why does this keep happening? And I think, and by the way, to everybody listening, it's at every level. It's at every new level, because you're constantly learning like new patterns, and a pattern that got you out of this pattern that got you ascended is now maybe no longer really a pattern that's going to work for you for up here. So you have to create a new pattern to pull you up to the next level. And that's why we have to constantly be looking at ourselves and say, okay, I keep seeing the same things at this level that, it's good. It got me here. I think some things need to change. Yeah. Here we go again. Okay, got to here. What needs to change? And that's life.
That's the game behind the game.
It's a game. Yeah.
It's so good. That's so epic. Yeah. I mean, man, there's just so many amazing things that you share that, again, I just, there's a large ripple effect to your words that is so impactful and beautiful. And I think that, I have this concept that came to me one day in my writing where I'm like, man, everything is just information. And what separates us as humans is twofold in this information conversation. It's the information that we choose to ingest, and that means food, relationships, training, books, any of it. It's all information, sunlight, information to your system, right? And then the other part is how an individual responds or reacts to external information that they didn't ask for, like called life, like just coming at you, and it's those two, situations of information that really make us fucking the individuals that we are. Right. So that comes to mind, because when you just explain this, just to witness self and it's so much of what you're saying is like, how I frame it is just look at yourself. I frame it as like with a student lens, like leave the fucking judgment. I know it's hard. It's hard. It's really hard not to judge yourself, but it's like, I kind of frame it as like, that's amateur. You want to go pro, you fucking leave those judgmental lens that you put them over there, lock them up, put on the student lens, and let's evaluate the situation. Let's witness self. what's going on with this information here?
Right.
What are you doing with this? What is this doing to us?
So it's so interesting too to like watch, like, or even something you said too about the external stuff that comes in, whether it's the food, the people. There's so much consumption of energy, and I wish people to pay more attention to that. Like, you ever be somewhat momentous, and all of a sudden, a new like client, a new friendship or new relationship or new whatever, either accelerates the momentum. You're like, ooh, like, God, like, that's the type of client, that's the type of friend, that's the type of partner, like, yes, like you can feel it. You can feel it.
Yeah.
And then you can also feel when there's an energy shift and you're kind of almost noticing old habits come back up. I always think that that's interesting when that happens, because you're like, what am I learning from this? I think it can happen at any time too,
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we consume so much energy. So it's really great to always be witnessing how we are feeling from the things that we are consuming energetically. And that'll also give us a lot of insight into, like, what do I need to remove? What do I need to add? And, and to that, what I would expand on is that instead of waiting for it to compound and it to feel like all of a sudden when you decide to deal with things here, if you iteratively, if you don't wait until it's compounded and you just like, little bit at a time, you have more flow, and you're also able to navigate like, already corrected that. So I knew how to handle it this time. Already corrected that. All right, cool. And you can just flow, versus if we're not constantly paying attention to these, like this witnessing of ourselves and these emotions and this energy, and it compounds and it compounds and we compromise and we compromise and it compounds and it compounds, and then we deal with it. Oh, it's a crash course sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I'd rather like this.
Yeah, versus the fucking Mack truck, just like
right. Exactly.
Which sometimes that's important too, right? But like, I'm with you. Like, if you can be in that more of that, kind of inching by inch life, inch by inch and flow, I think that there's a lot more, it just feels better, in your process.
Ooh, the process. Oh, I used to not have a relationship with that phrase, embrace the process. So I had a very, just kind of like, yes, embrace the process. I get it. Like, no, I didn't get it. Yeah. The process is your life. It's like where you create and you inject something good, remove something that no longer serves you, add something here, add this person here, tweak this thing here. And it's also, so I think it's twofold. I think on one hand, it's the mastery of creating your life and the surrendering to God, and to, not take on all the stress and control and attach yourself to outcomes and all this other stuff. Because if we're constantly playing for here and the goalpost is always moving, we end up at the end of our life and we're dead. Versus, like, where are we arriving to? And I did a post about that a while back. I was like, well, I think we arrived when we were born. And then it's about, how do I live my life while I'm here? And not defining myself the way society wants me to define myself. The only reason why society, in my opinion, and the system ever try to define people other than very malicious intent, is because of a lot of things: fear and scarcity and control and not doing the work themselves. And the internal work. I need to know who you are so I can better understand and respect you. Like, what is that about? Like, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. all that matters is how you are surrendering to what your soul is here to do. And that takes a lot. It takes a lot to let go. It takes a lot, like, and I give everybody, like, let's just remove, I get it. Some people, I know our audience is probably very spiritual, but like, let's just remove the woo-woo side. Look, at any given point in time, you're out in front of a situation and you hear it, and you hear it in your head. Do not do this. I have something, go over here. And you do it. And then the person goes, I didn't see that coming. And you're like, yes, you did.
Please give yourself more fucking credit. Own it. Yes, you did. And it's okay. Sometimes the not responding and choosing not to see the red flag or do the thing is the pathway to opting into your intuition, is because you have to learn what that feels like, right? I fucking love you, Matt, what you just said like that. And you literally, God, so many years ago, I remember one of my best friends, she's going to die when she hears this. I remember saying to her the exact words. I'm like, labels are for you to understand who I am, but I know who the fuck I am. So I don't need any kind of label. But if you got to understand me, okay, go label me, Right. It's just so powerful. That's one of, and it comes out in bits and pieces in your writing, but there's just so much energy around autonomy that you express.
Yes.
Fuck, and ownership, it's like, this is one of a million reasons where, again, like, I'm like, Matt, I got to put you on loudspeaker because listen, this is medicine right now. Okay. Straight up. And people fucking need it right now. Like, there's never been a better time to fucking take this medicine, and let it fucking unfold you. It might be hard and it might be scary and all the things. So what? How do you become fucking badass? I would say that, right? Like, you gotta earn that shit, and earning it is facing yourself.
Yeah.
And having that autonomy and that ownership and expressing yourself from that. So like,
no, it's why, I recently launched that Substack. It's part of something bigger that I'm going to do as well too, but it's called Permissionless.
Okay. One thing I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Where's the fucking t-shirt? Cause that was a question I want to talk about. I love your emails, and it's such a big statement. We're inundated with information, but I genuinely love to go into that email and fucking like tease it apart because, okay, so let me just keep it simple so you can have the microphone back. But like, seriously, Matt, I need the t-shirt. Permissionless. You're fucking coming. Yeah, please. Like,
it's coming. And leave it to me to be the tech nerd. I might be kind of tying that to the whole blockchain NFT thing with a very specific reason, as another level of community, but we can talk about that another time. But yes, it'll be coming. Okay. And permissionless is an existence that is happening. First, I got it from a lot of different things. I was reading token economics. I'm not going to nerd out too much with the audience, but meaning blockchain, crypto, all this other stuff, this world that we're moving into. And if people really understood what is happening in that world, it is removing a lot of the inappropriate behavior that has been controlling us in the current world that we're in. And it's moving us to a place where it was called like permissionless payments, permissionless coding, permissionless. And Naval talks a lot about it in his blogs. I saw it there in the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. Amazing book.
He's so amazing. I don't have the book, but I will get it.
Oh my God.
I learned it from you. So yeah.
Oh my God. On wealth and happiness. But like his mind is so, modern day Marcus Aurelian kind of a, and I get what happens with a lot of people is if you've been operating under a mode of if you've been operating under mode of operation, but if you've been under a certain like kind of way of being for a long time, it's almost hard to imagine that you have A, options, B, any kind of options and see like limitless potential in that. And that's a very scary thing for a lot of people. That's why there's certainty in fear. There's certainty in their current setup. Even if something is eating somewhere at their soul, they know. And so, but there's certainty in that. When you remove that certainty and create uncertainty, it forces people into a lot of different emotions, fight or flight. It forces them into like, oh my God, what I do? I don't know. It's like, what do you want to do? I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. And you're like, because you never took the time to think about all of the possibilities.
Yeah.
And maybe you were a little worried about what other people might think. And you have to remove that because they know it. Even if they don't like tell you, they know it. And that's why a great exercise for people is like, tell people that, you tell your loved ones that may not understand, I think I'm going to quit this and go do that. Oh no, that's very irresponsible. That's this, that's that. That's all these things. Right. Okay, cool. Why are those your words? I want to know, like, why are those your words? Well, I just think that, you're giving up stability or this. And I'm like, okay, so stability seems to be a big thing for you. What is stability? Well, stability is being able to pay the rent and do this and do that and, and have all this. Okay, cool. So money seems to be a thing that, tell me about your relationship with money. Mom, dad, brother, sister, whoever, like they're giving you, if they're not contributing and being a catalyst for you stating, and you shouldn't even have to rely on it, but it's still a good test. If they're not being a catalyst, pay attention to the words that they use. You'll understand them and have more empathy for them and not take it personally for you. It has nothing to do with you. No. They're fearing breaking from the consistency and the certainty of something that may not feel good, but has an outcome that they have, come to rely on, which is also being challenged right now by the entire system. And so it's very, not, I feel like I'm about to go on a tear, like rant on a rant, but it's like I felt really bad when I saw the 70,000 hospital workers, right, nurses and whatnot, let go in New York.
Yeah.
For not, doing the mandatory thing. Yeah. And I remember, everybody's like, they stood by for 18 months doing this. Yeah. How could this be?
Yeah.
And I said, I have been saying this to you for 8-9 years that I witnessed at a business level. Like, remove whether it's in medical or anything.
Yeah.
I was like, that at any given point in time, your security, because you're relying on an external thing, can be taken from you at any time if you're not creating it.
Yeah.
Security is what you create internally and how you lead from that place. If we are putting our security on others, they also have the right to take it away at any given point in time, whether you like that or not. That's their call. Right. And whether their behavior is healed and ethical and integrity driven, which we find a lot of people struggle with, which is why I always say humans will be humans, will be humans, will be humans. I say it all the time.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But knowing that humans will make decisions that innately at any given decision, at any given time may affect me. I must be rooted in what I am creating for myself. So that way, no matter what they do, it may still affect me a little bit, but I'm probably more ready for it than not. So that was a little bit of that tension, but like, I think it was just weird that, so we're being challenged a lot of times. And I tell people, I'm like, don't rely on anything. Like I was shown, like, God could literally at any given moment, especially if you're like, God, all right, I surrender to you. And I did that like 9 years ago, and boom, he took away, like, he removed a lot of different people and things that were like, oh, I'm so glad you're ready to let that go. Do you mind if I give you a way greater life now? I'm just wanting to make sure, because you've been kind of like forcing this for so long and feeling like you had to control this and really wasn't serving you. And quite frankly, you seemed a little like stressed at times. And I actually have like a whole other way better life over here. But I was just waiting for you to basically reach out and say, hey, I think I'm done. You know, it's like we have like this hard thing about letting go. And
well, it's comfort. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
People don't realize that, you know, their habits and their patterns that likely, you know, are not serving them, or that are even cultivating like a sense of suffering, is stemming from this place of comfort. And one would not really associate suffering and comfort, you know, to be
I know, right?
together. But it is that. It's a pattern. It's a habit, because of everything you just said. It's like, whoa, if I let go of this, my life vest is gone. Like, you know,
Yes.
The life vest is uncomfortable. It's like suffocating me. It's fucking driving me crazy, but like, it's still a life vest. So like, I feel safe out here, but it's like, nah, man, that's not how it works. And, you know, another thing that you said that like just gets, I always say, like, the only variable that doesn't change in life is you. Like, you are in you until you're fucking out of here, right?
Yep.
So it's very dangerous and not even wise to be reliant on any external worth, security, love, validation, anything that you can get in context of what I just said. Bonus. But it has to be first your security, your validation, your love, your worth. Like, it has to come from within. You know, when 2020 unfolded, you know, for the larger part of my career life, I was a freelance makeup artist in the celebrity arena. Freelance. I don't need to tell you, like, you know.
Yeah,
you know, like, I hunt, I dance on the edge of uncertainty. Like, that was always
right.
I feel like you just get very comfortable, or for me rather, you know, that was a huge catalyst in all those years, like 2 decades of being self-reliant, because there were several droughts. There were so many moments, right? It was like, woo, you're like river rafting and shit. You know what I mean? It's like, and you either learn to, like, you know, find that security in self, or you don't. And then you're a bitch to the fucking river. Like, you're just going to be thrown around. I don't know another way to put it, but like when 2020 happened and everyone's like, oh my God, all this uncertainty. And granted, uncertainty was like the PR for uncertainty was on fire. Like, whew, it was real, like it was happening. But for someone like myself, who, and I'm not saying this, and I probably don't even need to
I know where you're going.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Like, it was like, man, I am fucking, like, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm always ready to fucking go. That's right. Yeah.
No.
So, yeah.
I love that. I felt it too. And so I'll tag team with you on that. I did too. First of all, you know, because you were so self-reliant for so long and having droughts and championships and everything, it teaches you how to constantly pivot and adapt and be flexible and do all of these different things, and to question and to move and maneuver and switch it up, like all these different things, right? And so, and then also I think, and this maybe comes because of being entrepreneurs, freelancers, etc. I had my individual transformation removed from the collective. So last year I was telling people, I'm like, oh, well, you're just experiencing your first real transformation amidst actually a global like shit storm of everybody. And I was like, so I have a lot of empathy. And they're like, how are you not, worried? I was like, well, you all at least have it, each other, plus us who've done the work. I had to do the work by myself.
Word.
And so you had to watch me 8 years ago. You're going to be okay, champ. Let us know how that goes. And I'm like, but you couldn't relate. Now my circle can, obviously, but like,
yeah.
There were a lot of people that I'm like, this is a lot of work. Like, oh, I love your work. Oh, well, I can't get out of the way I'm living my life, but I'm rooting for you, dude. You're just like, okay. Like I was doing the work. And so, but the work also teaches you empathy and compassion.
Yes.
And that's also partially where we're experiencing people who may not have done the work or are very confused right now and are attacking the ones that have done the work. And the ones that have done the work, notice how we behave, notice how they behave. It's very evident. It's very evident. And they may want us in a different light. Let's just keep it kosher, I guess you will. Like we have empathy and we're like, it's all good. That's why I'm able to stand here in fortitude, And then the other thing I was going to tell you too is in 2019, 2020 was almost a cakewalk, not for what was going on externally, but like in my internal world, because in 2019, a friend of mine was fatally shot, unfortunately. And then 2 months later, my father passed, which was a very spiritual experience.
Yeah.
Months later, my uncle passed. And, there was, no longer some people I was affiliated with in business and, other circles. Like, I mean, it was literally like every month, the way probably everybody felt about 2020, I had my own like meme every month of 2019. And I'm like, something big may be coming, I'm like, and I encourage people to, there's this thing called side swiping that they talk about a little bit in the spiritual world, which is, it's not a coincidence. You're witnessing the energy of a lot of different things all happening at the same time, because there is a shift in your world and maybe in the world at large. I think it turned into the world at large in 2020, but like for the most part, if you're noticing a lot of your own individual things that after a while you're like, you ever go, that's creepy. Like how that, like that, and then that, and then that, take a step back immediately, and observe and reflect again, back to the self-witnessing, like, am I going too fast? Am I missing something? Do I need to take, a step back for some people? Like, how am I doing my work? Am I being, honorable in it? All these things. Right. Yeah. And so, for me though, I in 2019, I think it was just more of a oh, I want to change my approach to life moving forward, in a very healthy way. And I figured it was probably, preparing me for this next world that a lot of others are relying on us for too. Right.
Yeah. I mean, to have experienced what you did in 2019, I mean, that is a very intimate level of pain, and there, I can't even imagine, the amount of, just you being you, the beautiful wisdom that actually was birthed from you from that pain, right? I'm sure you felt into it as difficult as it was, but, that ends up being, or how I see it, like so much of the armor that you would, and not just the armor, the torch. Very strategically, intentionally using these words, right? The torch that you would take yourself through in 2020, right? So it was, I mean, listen, and this actually bridges me into something that I really want to, I have to, I want to live in this. I'm kind of holding you accountable here where I'm going with this right now, because I care. But, I'm like, okay, Matt, so you were definitely, I mean, listen, your whole life, but okay, you were fucking set up to have that armor, to have the wisdom, to have the torch, to not just move yourself in a very empowered, powerful way, impactful way, in 2020 and beyond in life, but to be, that voice of influence and impact and support and love and light to all of your community, to all who really come across to you and can see you and feel you. And then, so that now I'm going to bridge to the piece where I'm going to hold you accountable. Your writing.
Yeah.
Okay. I left you a note the other day. I'm just putting it on blast. And I was like, just for our audience to know, I was like, so when's the book coming out? Because I'm just saying that you're writing. Number one, I have a question. Like, when did you start? I mean, you are a very prolific artist. Like I always like when I'm doing my notes for my guests, you can go to their about section and like have their titles, but I create my own title for the guest. Right. And I'm like, oh, he is a prolific. Hold on. Did I freeze?
No.
Oh, okay.
It
said, okay, I'm going to start. He is a prolific digital and life artist. I mean, straight up, you're just an artist, but you touch in this realm and in this realm powerfully. So my question, and I want to dive into your writing a bit, is like, when did you really start expressing yourself in this medium of writing that I am so just taken back by?
Writing is a very amazing journey for me. I was a very expressive kid, and I was raised to express myself. So I really thank my parents for that. And I don't think that's always easy in a world where, especially, back to that whole authenticity thing, it can also be naiveness because we want to just express with the world and we think that it's always going to be well received. We forget who's always on the other end too, right? But that's where we learn fortitude and other things, right? So I was a very expressive kid, and weirdly enough, I was reflecting on this recently, where math was my thing. In writing, I had these weird incidents throughout all of like grade school and college that I know is God, and I'll explain. Mm-hmm. I remember in about 3 or 4 different grades, including twice in college, where a teacher would give me back the paper and say, there's something about where you were going with this. So instead of giving you a C, I'd rather give you an A, take it home and complete it. Now it happened 5 or 6 times total. And why did everybody else not get spared that chance? What's that about? Right? What's that about? Like, why, and I didn't think anything always of it. I just thought of, oh, cool, I'll get a better grade, at the time. And then I was constantly writing behind the scenes, whether in digital or in marketing or in branding or in business and business plans and pitch decks and VCs. And like, it seemed like I was, and like my father was an attorney and a businessman. So I'd like review contracts and like, it's like, you don't even realize that it's happening until one day you wake up and you're like, oh, wow, it was always happening. It was always happening.
Yeah.
And then about 8 years ago, I needed a medium. I needed a platform. And after, all the stuff that was removed from my life, and I felt like I was starting over from scratch again, I wanted to have very real conversations and express myself to the world, because I wanted to see that I'm not the only one and that I'm not crazy, and B, make other people not feel lonely and crazy. Like, hey, we're in this together, even if it's just by myself, but we're in this together.
I always say like we're all crazy, and it just comes down to how our crazies get along with each other.
Right. And so it was interesting because those same 2 friends from earlier that said, get them. One was showing me a lot with Instagram. And before him, one of my best friends I grew up with, he knew what tough time I was going through. This is one of these friends that he must have been a brother in another life, many lifetimes, and a soldier in arms, anything, because it just, I don't know, just the way he makes decisions in life from a very grounded place, always not complex, not overly simple where there's no thought, just a grounded place. And I told him that recently. And so he was watching me write, and I missed a few days, and he said, where's your writing? And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, I don't know. Like, I missed the last 2 days. Like, where's the writing? And I'm like, oh, you like that? And he said, yeah, like a lot. I think you should keep doing that. I was like, all right. And so that started, I started to think about that, and I was like, I think I need to express myself more. Let's do this. And then my other very close friend, my best friends for years, was like, hey, here's how, Instagram is working. This is back in 2014. So this is before algorithm changes on. He's like, here's how Instagram is working. Like, here's how, something to think about, and, run. Amazing. Launch it, talk it out, therapy it out, talk it out. And so I started writing, and it was really like channeling for me. I realized how I hadn't done it publicly, and I hadn't given the love. It was sort of like God finally saying, like, finally, like, finally, because, these hints over 15 plus years weren't enough, but thank you for finally, like, sometimes I know that's not how it works, but I love humanizing sometimes just to relate to people. It's like, and so it was very much channeling. I do it spur of the moment. There is no planning. There is no, it's right then and there. Every piece since then, right then and there. And I've even had, I remember back in the beginning when I was doing 7 to 9 posts a day, people were asking me, I had a lot. It was what happened was coming out of a divorce and coming out of, like, that was 8 years of marriage and just a lot of changes. Imagine, like, if a lion is sleeping dormant and it finally, the cage is like left open, like you're going to go for a long run. And the roar is so loud that you just have to, like, express yourself. Yeah. And I started it was like just pouring and pouring out. And I remember people were asking, like, hey, so how do you plan your content for the week? Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? And I was so naive at the time about it. And they were like, well, I mean, do you do it every Sunday? Do you kind of batch them first and then you just like launch them? I'm like, no, I really don't understand, like, what you mean. And they're like, like, you set them up and then when the day comes, and I was like, oh, I was like, no. And then they were just like, so you're just writing, like, you just write it and then you launch it. I said, I write it and then I launch it. Yeah. That's what I'm feeling in that moment. Whether it was a past experience, something I can relate to, something I'm channeling, something I can let people know, something I'm feeling, something I'm exploring, any number of things. And I also wanted to write in a way where, because I was talking about experiences, I never wanted to reference any person or any place or any brand or anything. Yep. Remove the energy of where I might have learned the experience, but create a new energy of how to manage a situation that could happen. So I would be honoring and leaving behind somebody that did me maybe wrong, and helping others rethink, should they see signs of these things in themselves or in business or in life or relationships or all these things. Yeah. And it just kept going from there. And then the audience asked for the podcast. I was like, I'm not doing a podcast. And they're like, just do a podcast already. And I'm like, fine, I'll do a podcast. And that just went crazy to like 6 million downloads or so over time. And in more recent years, to get to your original question, I started writing a lot more on my personal account because I felt I was a little too behind the scenes, and I wanted people to feel a soul behind, like, I get you. I'm right here. Right here. Let's have the conversation. I'm not hiding behind a moniker, HDF, or permissionless or household separately, HSS, none of this. Like, here I am. Like, let's, and I have a lot of different interests from my life, and I'm constantly a student. So let me share with you what I am understanding about myself and these messages that I can't tell you why they're coming through. I wish I could. They're channeled, and I had one of my best friends tell me, that that was kind of something I was born with, sort of like a knowing of information. So from a young age, giving advice, how would I know that? How would that be something that I could even give with or without context? Yes. And so that was very interesting to learn that, oh, wow, like this is a channeled thing going on. And to the rest of the world listening, even I sometimes have problems with it, meaning I love it, that I'll never stop. But I have a bunch of different other things going on sometimes. And, just like I tell everybody else, like I'm constantly looking to how I manage, what do I keep moving forward and what do I reduce, because we know this thing is my greatest love and it really does deserve all the attention, So it's a work. So I urge people to know that I too am always a work in progress. I'm like, oh, I still got some things to let go. But the book, which, I get asked, I just recently, I'm about to redo Matt Gottesman. Well, I've redone mattgottesman.com. I just haven't swapped out the sites. And I even purposely put a tab there that says my book.
I love this.
Just on purpose, because I'm like, and by the way, it's just for everybody, like, I urge you to build your own website. I know that sounds funny and like, I'm not techie. Stop. At this point, you can use Wix or
Squarespace
or WordPress, or there's so many ways, like literally Wix is drag and drop like Canva. Stop. Right. But what's cool about doing it is create it for where you're heading. So you put the things in place there, even if it's not ready, even if it's not launched, doesn't matter. And so I put my book, and then like you come to the page, it just says like, hey, you might be here because you're part of my tribe, or you got referred here, whatever, et cetera. Like, I love writing. This is this and that. I'm working on it, but leave your name and email, and you're going to be on the list. I'll let you know as I develop it, et cetera. And I've already started working on all of the different, areas and topics that, appeal to me. And it's interesting because I want to really honor the process. I know there'll be more than one.
Yeah. Oh, I know that too. I feel like there's going to be different styles. I mean, they all like work together, but just different expressions from you. That's just my feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much to share, because like it's weird how like in some circles I'm just known as like business and digital and marketing, and he's a tech guy. In a lot of other circles, it's writing and spirituality. You got this whole like now like around all these like blockchain, crypto, NFT. Like we're all like in these groups, And, and so I get that. I think that's so people like. That's why I appreciate what you said earlier. You're like just an artist of life, and I'm like, well, I'm exactly. And I another thing I would urge to people to consider is Leonardo da Vinci was not just a sculptor or like a painter, but that's how he became very well known. And there were so many other things, and he felt like he got boxed into a hole because of it. So he purposely removed himself in some capacity to go into architecture, into flight, in aviation, into science, into psychology. I mean, so don't be so confined and restricted to just like, if these are the things that like, I'm doing, that they're the only things that I'm doing. And so, so that's to answer your question, why I can see that several books going different things. And I love the dynamics of spirituality and relationship and our personal selves and with partnership. And then, then business, and how does that all tie in together, how we behave. And
I mean, it's so, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you and for me to get your books, and everybody else here to get the books. But there's multiple disciplines that you have a powerful voice in, and it's like, so it's one part, there's knowledge. Like if you think about like your career capital, it's like, holy shit, you got a lot to share of value to anyone who's worth, who's willing to listen. And then that also, you have so much wisdom and so much, there's just this authenticity, authentic, like how you say, it's like you channel it. It's the same for me, Matt. I write in the moment. It's totally downloaded. It's just, there's no, like, it's not contrived. It's coming from, I call my muse, also known as my future self, also known as the highest self. But so, with you, I love this message that you just shared, in addition to everything else, just letting us know like what's going to go down with your book. But just that message, that I'm equally so passionate about sharing, which is You don't have to be one thing. In fact, you're not here. I don't believe you're here to be one thing. There was like this funny statement. I was a guest on a podcast recently, and the host started laughing so bad because I was like, listen, I'm a fucking martial artist. I train Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I'll choke you out, but I can also get you ready for the Oscars, and then I can help your mindset go. Like, it was just this funny. I'm not restricted to any, this is who I am, or this is my profession, or express yourself, unleash yourself, right? It's service to you, but also to the world, all the different books that you'll write. Think of how many people around the world will gain in all of those different areas because of you unleashing yourself. So I love the message in that. I also love that tip. And I'm honestly, I think I'm going to do that myself. I always write, like in my own privacy, like, in fact, actually, on my bracelets, I have these words, and one of it, one says New York Times best, NYT best. And it's not so much about, because it's about being the New York Times bestseller. It's because it's an arduous fucking task to even be like, and that actually, there's something that I wanted to, when you were talking about like process, high achievers, high performers, driven individuals, we have these goals, and then the goal moves. Once we get there, we're already looking at the next. I always feel like, the beauty is like, it's not just, yes, it's the victory, it's the goal. Like, I want the goal too, but it's more about who you become on the way to the fucking goal. It's all about you. I mean, I have this guided journal coming out. I'll share with you offline. But the title of it came to me, downloaded one day in my journal. The title is called "You Are the Path." It's you. You're the motherfucking path.
Yeah. Always has been. Always has been, So, and I'm sorry.
No. Please go. I was just passing it back to you.
I love that. And one thing when you're talking about more than one thing, I urge people to think about how we express ourselves to the world is through mediums: writing, podcast, being a banker, being a businessman, being a lawyer, being a jiu-jitsu trainer. I mean, anything. We're using a physical, real world scenario to bring our soul through, and so the world can hopefully be impacted for the better. So yeah, we're going to have multiple mediums, and I think that if we look at it more like, I'm not the label of this, I'm using the medium of this to go through to the people. And that's a way different way of, I think it helped me. And then the other thing, when you were talking about, the channeling and the writing, another great tip for people too, is it's okay if you can't necessarily channel it right away. A really great exercise is just a freehand conversation with God, source, universe, however you want to, your highest self. You can write, I'm feeling this, woke up feeling this way. I'm not really sure where that's coming from. I think maybe it's because of this, this, and this, but who really knows? And so what starts to happen is you're writing, and then your highest self, or God, starts to kind of write through you as like, and I'll do this, looking at this now, this is probably where I'm going to go with it next. And so you start to kind of like have this relationship from freehanding to start expressing yourself. Yeah. And from that expressing yourself, you also start to kind of get more clarity, and you get to see where the mind can and the heart and the soul can really go, or where the soul already is. And we're just trying to catch up. So we're having a dance with our soul, like, right. That's really what we're doing, is we're writing with our soul. And it's like, the soul wants to have that conversation. It's your GPS. So it's like, I already know what you need. So whenever you're ready, whenever you're ready, I don't know how you feel.
We're going.
Fate and free will. Like, unfortunately, you need to make the decision to follow me. So
good. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh my goodness. I'm so grateful for you for all this time. So there's a couple things I like to do to wrap out an episode. And hopefully I would just, be honored to have you back on and just have more conversations with you. Yeah. So say that now. Before I ask you these, I do a bit of rapid fire words, which you do not need to be rapid in your response. You could just, whatever comes top of mind, top of heart when I say these words. But before I go there, is there anything we've talked about a lot of just pure golden nuggets, like so much gems coming out of you? Is there anything though that you haven't shared in this episode that you want to live in this conversation? Maybe it's something that you wish people would kind of pull on you more on, or like pull out of you rather, anything of that sort, or just final thoughts before I move into rapid fire words.
I would love it if they come into the community and not like the work, but talk about it with me. I would love more conversation. So, everybody can feel just more connected and more like empowered that, okay, it's not just me. And here's what I want to hear other people's experiences as well within the work, right? And what they see in there and that. And then and the other thing I would constantly tell people is be more patient, show yourself more grace, and really work on practicing surrendering to the soul versus the controllable nature of you, that has a hard time letting go, even when a different answer is better. Let go a little bit more. And sorry if my dog is growling. So okay. Yeah. So I would is like letting go more. And when you practice that surrendering, what happens is you start to also know how to answer things in your life in any given situation much quicker,
Oh yeah. True that. So good. I love it. Thank you for that. Okay. If you, and I know that you do, Matt, because you're an alchemist, if you had a magic wand and you can give the masses one positive habit that would have a large ripple effect on their life, what would it be and why?
Discipline. Discipline.
Please elaborate. This is important here. I love it.
Yeah, it'll solve everything else. It'll solve everything else. It'll solve for your habits. It'll solve for your consistency. It'll solve for your word. It'll solve for your actions. It'll solve for your clarity. It'll solve for your health, your finances, your relationships, better relationships. It'll literally change how life happens for you versus, you just being kind of the outcome of what life is doing to you, right? You have more sovereignty and freedom for that.
I'm putting a bow on that. That was so fucking good. Like that was just here, everybody. Take that. Fuck, that was so powerful. Okay, rapid fire words. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. First one is love.
A must. Oh, do I have to just do how many do I do?
You go wherever you want. No, it doesn't have to be rapid.
I could go on a tear?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I had to give one word back. And that was two. So I was like, ooh. Love, light. Without it, we're losing everything. It's like the solver of everything, right? So, love is our ability to have a grace and empathy and relieve of stress and connection. It allows us to have more connection. And we cannot really do anything without it, because without it, we run into a lot of other, problems and other things in general that can really affect the outcomes of our life. And it's also the truth. This is a very, very, very important thing. People say that your heart got broken. No, it didn't. Your ego got broken. Your heart is truth. It is the utmost truth, because it is not, it's courage. It's, I'm going to tell you something that is resonating with me most, even if it is not what you want to hear, but it is like, I'm going to say no to you. but that's because I have to do what is at utmost best for me. That's heart. That's respect. That's like truth, instead of just taking something on that shouldn't be yours, or being with somebody you shouldn't be with, or, being afraid of what somebody thinks. Your heart is your truth. Love is truth. And it's light.
Like fucking pages in your book. One of your books. You heard Perfect. It here first, people.
Perfect.
Okay, next word is fear.
Dark. Fear is made up by a whole like illusory world. Is that how you say it? Like illusionary? Yeah, illusory word. Yeah. World that we have maybe not yet dealt with something in the uncertainty, but it is a just killer of everything good, innately good. And it doesn't allow you the freedom to expand, and it doesn't allow you the freedom to live.
Yeah.
It doesn't allow the freedom of your soul to guide you. It keeps you in a very stressed, suppressed, angry, bitter place. It has no real service of value at all to you. It's just not real. It's just not real. And one thing I'll share on that is that I learned a long time ago, I think it was in Conversations with God and then a workshop, was that love, when at the beginning of time, when God created souls and they were perfect, this is in Conversations with God, that the issue was he created souls perfect, love, light. If you don't have any contrast, how do you know what love feels like? You don't. He created contrast, dark, fear, right? Not for us to take it on, but the ego was then birthed from that. But so we can say, oh, that's why this feels so good. Mm-hmm. So when we see fear or people being fearing to us, they're actually your contrast, reminding you, oh, wow, like, so I'm actually much more heart than I'm maybe even giving myself credit. Like, oh, well, if that doesn't feel right, because this like love feels right. I appreciate it now. Right? Like, oh, we can't appreciate without contrast. Fear is just contrast and it's not real. So
epic. So good. Okay. Passion.
We're here to create. And I wrote a little bit about this last night. I mean, it's our expression to the world, but it's our expression for ourselves. It's really what we're here to embody. I think it's our approach to everything that we do. And it's our guiding force. It's what allows us to build, as you know, something from nothing. Yeah. And it relies very heavily on intuition, which is what I was saying on last night's post. It needs intuition because we don't know all the things. The passion is potentially, you hope it's more than one season or a lifelong, you hope it's lifelong, but if not, it doesn't matter because we'll have several. But the passion needs intuition, which is a beautiful relationship because we're not relying on why we have this curiosity and this natural thing that we want to constantly like do within any particular area. We just need to rely on, moving in that direction and having other things be, shown our way. It's teaching us. It's literally teaching us how to just rely and trust in universe and God and the soul. Like that's all it is. It's like, but the passion needs the intuition so it can like cultivate and create the life, right?
Cooking in the kitchen right now. This is so good. Okay, a couple more. Courage.
Heart. Courage is I don't think that you can have courage without the heart. We can be courageous and handle anything. How we handle it is the heart. because this keeps us in truth. So courage is, in my opinion, courage is leadership of truth, right? Versus asserting an outcome solely that's just best for you. It's doing what is right. Where does what is right come from? I mean, really right, not like my interpretation of right. So the heart, truth.
I just got like, I saw a t-shirt design from you. It's like right over the heart, just as truth. That's so good. Okay. Couple more. Resilience.
Ooh. Pick a year. Resilience you're going to need, because there are going to be moments of being misunderstood, and where it's going to feel like things aren't working out in your favor. And that becomes very lonely, especially if you're doing it with integrity and ethics. And I did a post about that like, it might have you feel like in the short term you are losing when you see other people, maybe even in your same category, catapulting. If from true talent, beautiful. If not so much from true talent, but you know what they're using to do it, doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter, right? Resilience to stay in your lane with your ethics and integrity intact is a lifetime. So, you're going to need resilience and fortitude and a lot of grounding and a lot of self-work and self-witnessing and all these things. So you don't constantly give yourself away each time there's a temptation or a distraction.
So good. Oh my goodness. Okay. Final word. Excellence.
Oof. The act of doing. That's what came from me right in that moment. Meaning, we already know perfect doesn't exist, but we know that at any given point in time, we can put our best work out in that moment, at that moment. Will it get better? Yeah. Could part of it even get worse if we go in a different direction? True. But excellence is the doing. It's the actual releasing the work from your best at that moment, and caring enough about the details and the people it impacts. So it's not rushed. Excellence will never be rushed. It cannot be rushed. And it's very time consuming. It's very 10,000 hours plus kind of modality. And it's a great North Star, but it's always changing because, our body of work is always changing. So I think it just helps us really ground in our mastery in the process.
Fucking everybody applaud.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, please guide everybody. Where do they just take deeper dives into you and your work? Yeah.
Well, everybody can reach out at Matt Gottesman, MattGottesman on Instagram. Yes, I actually answer every DM and text. This woman will tell you, and I'd love to hear from all of you guys. My Substack it's called Permissionless. You can just search Permissionless, or you can just go to mattgottesman.substack.com. We are permissionless.com if you want to kind of keep up with where that is going to head. And then mattgottesman.com. And the podcast is called The Hustle Sold Separately. I did not mean the hustle from hustle and grind, just more from doing the work, just doing the work, but that's
so good.
Yeah.
So many things. Yes. Yeah. Obviously everything's in the show notes. And I just want to take a minute to say thank you, not only for your time and your energy here, but for being a real contributor in this world. Like you're doing it, Matt. And I'm so grateful. Again, shout out to my best girl, Carrie Walsh Sheddings, because I mean, I'm just so grateful she fucking sent me that link that morning, you know? And I'm so grateful to myself that I just fucking decided to click on it and be connected with you and your beautiful energy and wisdom. So thank you so much. This has been truly an honor.
Thank you for having me on. And shout out to Carrie. She sent me a DM the other day when I was having some like back issues from a lymphatic massage. She's like, use this machine. This
I knew
it. and I was like, I'm on it. Thanks. And actually, I'd asked my osteopath that afternoon. I'm like, hey, if need be, I can use this after the ice bath. That doesn't work. But so that was awesome of her.
I gotta tell you, because when I saw that post, I was thinking about Carrie, and I'm like, she's probably gonna recommend, because that machine is everything and it's so legit. But I literally had that vision of you guys communicating that. That is fucking hilarious. I love her. Yeah, it's legit.
And thank you so much for having me on. This was an amazing conversation. I'm happy to deep dive anytime. I think more of these conversations I'd love to see the world have, you know.
Me too. Yeah. So to be continued.
Perfect.
Okay. Bye, you guys.
Bye, guys.